Oakland has gone from a community at play to a community at home. These are the stories and experiences of our Oakland residents while we are all home alone, but still in this together.
My name is Joanne de Mars, and I live in, I think it's technically the Oakmore neighborhood, but I don't know, I have like Upper Diamond, Oakmore kind of area.
And how many people are you sheltering in place with at your home?
I'm sheltering in place with one other person, my partner, Ashley. And two dogs and a cat.
And can you tell me what you do for a living and if you're still working during the shelter in place?
So I'm a professional musician. I'm lucky enough, so I play cello, and as a musician, I mostly perform, which all of that work obviously has been shut down for the time being. And I teach as well. So I'm lucky enough to have still a few students that are kind of keeping me afloat right now. But most of the bulk of my work is performing. I play in regional orchestras, and I do a lot of like gig work, which by that I mean like, playing for weddings, corporate events as part of like a smaller string ensemble. Mm-hmm. So yeah, none of that is happening.
Tell me about the project that you came up with to sort of keep yourself playing the cello during this time.
My goal this year, as for 2020, was to record the 6 Bach cello suites with a professional recording studio, do it the right way, and have a recording of the 6 suites. I think it's a kind of a rite of passage for a cellist. It was kind of a natural transition when I was suddenly left with no work. I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do? I can't go to my friend's house to record. I still want to be practicing. I still want to be giving music to my community. And so, just kind of putting the idea of having the Bach cello suites as a series, and originally thinking quarantine was going to be maybe about 6 weeks long. It kind of seemed to fit the time scale in my head. And, it's funny at first, everybody's like, oh, 6 weeks. Hopefully it's not going to be that long. You might, and I was like, I think we'll get through it.
For people who may not know about Bach's cello suite, can you give us a quick descriptor of what it is?
So the Bach cello suites there's 6 individual pieces, and each piece has 6 what we call movements. So they're like chapters of a book. And so they're enormous pieces of work, and they're all written for solo cello, which is also really special because as a cellist, often we play, the bass line in orchestra. We don't have a lot of truly solo repertoire where we play by ourselves, and it's complete as a work just in that. Also, they're just magnificent pieces of work by Bach, who's just a mammoth of composition. And, they're really, really special pieces. They were intended originally to be danced to, so there's a lot of movement in the music. Most cellists didn't really regard them as real pieces. They were more studies or etudes for many, many, many years, hundreds of years, until the great master Pablo Casals kind of rediscovered them. He kind of reinvigorated the whole notion that these are actually performance pieces and brought them back to the forefront of cello repertoire.
Tell us the name of the project that you are doing, and then what did it entail?
I called it the Sweet, play on words, SUITE, the Sweet Weeks of Quarantine. And it was basically, my notion was to take one Bach cello suite and perform it in nature, meaning I was hiking into the woods in local Oakland, mostly Oakland. I went once to Lake Berryessa up in Napa County, but mostly Oakland regional parks. And taking my cello, bringing the recording equipment out into the woods, and having a small performance. So as to give people who weren't maybe necessarily able to go outside during this time, or, able to get to a concert, kind of the marriage of those two beautiful things, making music and nature.
How did you find those locations, and do they mean something to you, those spaces?
Aside from being a musician, I am an avid trail runner myself. So I had an idea kind of where I wanted to go. And the tricky part was like, I needed it to be kind of less than a mile from anywhere I could park, because carrying all the equipment was really hard, going by myself, doing that. And then also finding somewhere quiet enough was really difficult.
I think on the first one, you talked about not editing and working on, I think you called it a practice of acceptance. Did you stick with that motto for all of them?
I did. And what I intended by that was that I wasn't going to, like play something twice because I'd made a mistake. The actual performance of the piece is completely unedited. And as it would be in a live performance, you get one shot, it's just, there it is. And that practice of acceptance of the mistakes and the creaks and the cracks and the squeaks and, all those things, they're part of a performance. And I think it's what makes it very human.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite of the 6 performances that you did?
I don't know. They're all really special in their own way, and they all presented so many different challenges. But the first was really special because I had some picnickers nearby, so I actually kind of had an audience that day. And it was really sweet, and they sat the whole time and were quiet and respectful, and it was really, really cool. But then also the 6th was really special to me just because it was the last one. And I had gone out earlier in the morning, tried to get the whole thing done at sunrise, being this, this epic, okay, I'm gonna, the sun is rising, we're finally making our way through this quarantine, and here's this beautiful D major suite and all this stuff. And it was horrible. It came out so bad that I was really depressed all day. And then I was like, okay, I took a nap because I'd been up so early, and I was like, I got to just give it one more shot. So I went out, and it was really perfect timing, just the sun setting over Mount Tam. And I felt so fortunate to just go, and I did it straight through. And it was like one of the best times I'd played it, because it's a challenging suite. So I think that for me, the experience of that was probably the most inwardly rewarding.
At the end of that performance, you can hear your breath as you look out as the sun is setting. What were you feeling right in that moment?
It was just the immensity of the completion, and just seeing the powerful earth around me. It was really just so touching, and I just felt so much gratitude in that moment, and so much just kind of peace and wonderment at just everything that was surrounding me. Couldn't have been more idyllic.
What do you think you've gained or learned through this whole process?
I think I have gained a sense for myself of seeing a project through, and having the motivation and the capability and I don't know, it sounds a little immodest, but the bravery to do it. Those are really vulnerable pieces. They're extremely difficult. And I think for me, just to sit and do something that's challenging in all of these ways, having a lot of fear and facing that fear and doing it regardless of any sort of expectation of outcome or anything taught me a lot about myself.
Tell us how we can watch them.
So if you want to see these, they're on YouTube. If you look at they're on my channel. I'm Joe. I go by Joe de Mars on the channel. It's called The Sweet Weeks of Quarantine. And that's, if you just look that up, I think you can find them.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me and doing your part to flatten the curve and giving us some joy too while you're doing it. So I really appreciate talking to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Beto. Yeah, and thanks for the interview. I really appreciate it.
If you are an Oakland citizen and would like to share your Home Alone Together story, please email us at ktop@oaklandca.gov.